What's up, everyone? This is BigPowner, and today I'm going to be doing the Elemental Hit Week 2 guide. So, if you guys are new to the channel, I always do this. I always let people know, usually a couple days before the league starts, what my starter is going to be, just because they don't release all the information until it's like about to start. Um, and then, really early in the league, I release a guide to kind of give people tips, help them get the build rolling. And then about 2 weeks out, I do a guide that's basically a guide. Here's what works best for this league. Obviously, we had a lot of changes between this league and last league with Harvest no longer being in the game. Obviously, how we're going to get our gear is going to be a lot different, harder. So keeping that in mind has changed how the build's going to be set up. Also, the league mechanic, how we're going to be playing, has changed. So things have changed in the build, but this is basically going to be the guide that shows you how I have found it works best to be able to kill bosses, like endgame boss, serious conquer, stuff like that, and then still be able to play really well inside of the league mechanic. I'm going to do a demo, which is going to be a Conqueror map. I'm on Awakener 7 right now. I kind of messed up on collecting my stones a couple times, but so yeah, Awakener 7, Conqueror, and you'll see it map and how it does with the league mechanic. Because there's a league mechanic in it, this is going to be a little bit longer of a demo because it's going to be a two boss fights, the map demo and the league mechanic demo, and then I'm going to go over the build. I will put in a marker so you guys can skip that if you don't really care about that. Anyways, I'm going to go and get started. So as far as like mapping, it's like amazing at mapping. The first thing you'll notice that I've changed is this league. I'm doing 2 6 links, so that's different from last league. Last league we wound up having uh, a aura setup was like kind of the end game goal, running level 4 enlighten. We're not doing that this league. One of the reasons is because one of the changes that happened this league, they winded up raising the reservation cost on the Flesh and Stone, which was the third aura that we were running last league. So I'm not running that. You could fit it in, but just between the haste and the Flesh and Stone, you'd be at 85% reservation, and then you throw in precision. You would have to be running such a low level precision that it would be really not helping you very much. So in the build right now, I find the precision to be more valuable. If you want more defensive, you could go ahead and drop the precision and go for the flesh and stone. You could throw in the level 4 enlighten to make it so that it fits in better. That's one of the choices that you're going to be able to have for this build. Just if you want to make it work a little bit better for yourself. Okay, well, this is pretty much. Let's go ahead and get this fight done. Okay, so for the boss fights, I switch out my primary link, the chain support for barrage support. This is going to give you on average probably about 5 times increased single target DPS. So that's going to be a nice damage increase for you. If you start getting a lot of damage, like I have a lot of gear that needs upgrading, I'll go over my gear so you can kind of see how it plays and see like the level of gear that I have on right now in this video. Oof. My flasks. that 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 missed panic moment was like this part's annoying. I don't get to DPS. I did a Sears fight on this, and I forgot to turn. I forgot to check my I forgot to check my sound settings. So I had a Sears. I've done one Deathless Sears, and then I did another Sears that I recorded because I figured that would be a good demonstration, but I wasn't recording. I did have one death when I was doing the recording. I'm not quite as good at playing when I'm recording. But you can very easily deathless Sears on with this build if you know the fight. This fight's kind of an annoying one because I can't just DPS her. Oh! All right. All right. Anyways, you guys see a little bit of laggy there. Um. So yeah. My gear's not amazing. I have a really nice bow. That's pretty much the only good piece of gear that I have on the character at this point. I have an amazing bow. My bow is completely end game besides the enchant's wrong. But the rest of my gear is actually pretty bad. So if you're like, oh, that looks like it's running really well, I've got a 3-stat ring with level 2 curse. I've got very, very mediocre gloves, very mediocre belt, pretty crappy boots. I mean, we basically have 2 stats and then a crafted stat. Um, my chest is it's basically crit and a crafted life. Lower than crafted resistance, and so my gear, I've got a stat stick, 3 plus crafted life amulet. Um, my quiver's all right, still pretty bad. Low crit multiplier. The only thing on here that's really that great is tier 2 life. I mean, not even tier 1. The point is, and my helmet, I've basically got a good life roll, and I don't even think I need the intelligence. No, I don't. Um, so you get the point. My gear's pretty bad. Besides my bow is really nice. But making the bows, you could go for a +5 instead of the +6, which I have a video on crafting those types of bows. So whether you want to go for a +6 or a +5, I already have done a video very um, very in depth. I did last league. So if you want to learn how to craft one of those bows, you can just use that. The thing that I would say is we are gem level scaling, but if you're like, oh man, he's got a synth bow, that's only a +1. And, with just an Awakener's Orb, you can make a +2 amulet. The thing that I'll say about making your +2 amulet, when you do it, I would recommend that one of them is plus to dexterity gems. The reason why is because we primarily have dexterity gems in our build, so you're going to get the most out of having that. You could also, as your second +1, you can choose fire, cold, or lightning are going to work. I just went with lightning because the base was the cheapest when I wanted one and bought one. Also, it gives +1 to my lightning golem. Not really a huge deal, but not really much of a difference on which element you pick as your second +1. But Awakener's Orb +2 +1 amulets, slam them together, hope you get lucky, and you've made up that +1 if you go with a +5 bow, which the +5 bow will probably cost you about 12 EX to make. You can, of course, go for the +3, starting with attack speed, and that's going to cost you around 6 EX, and you could still use that as an endgame bow. Each extra level is about a 10% increase to damage, and there's a lot of places in the build, like all of my gear, that you could much cheaper gain that 10% here than spending 20 plus EX on a base. My jewels still aren't finished. I'm just basically showing you guys all of the stuff that needs to be finished. I'm using two stat cluster jewels. If you want to see what the ideal cluster jewels are, look at my last league's elemental hit which I need to just take and buy them. I didn't want to take and like I have the currency actually to get all this stuff and replace it, but I didn't want to have it in at that finished of a state, so I figured I'd make this video first. But if you want to see the ideal jewels, just look on my profile, BigPowner 1, like the number. So that's my account if you want to log into it. So that's pretty much that there. Now I'm going to go over every single item slot and how you can upgrade from there. Eventually, the tree is going to look the same. I'm going to wind up coming over here for the super endgame build, which will be the final guide that I do. I will end up coming over here, adding a third cluster. One will be an elemental cluster that's going to have the same stuff from the same stuff from last league, just because those were the optimized clusters. I will wind up dropping, in order to be able to fill out that last cluster, this up here, and I believe you have to be 95 or 96 to actually fill it in. You can drop some other points around 90. I can't remember exactly where it is, but this is another place you could go as an option to get another cluster. My jewels also aren't great still. I have very mediocre jewels, like single multiplier with that. This is actually my nicest one, I think, but like single multiplier with crit chance or crit multiplier. Basically, if you think it looks good right now, this is very, very attainable. But I definitely would recommend getting the clusters. The clusters I'm missing out on by not having these be the right one. It's like 20% attack speed that I'm missing out on, extra life leech, extra mana leech. So that's pretty big deal. As far as flasks, I do like this setup. This is a cheap setup. The only expensive thing here is the Dying Sun. These also need to be upgraded. We have easy upgrades we can get here that, just out of me not going for it, I haven't gotten yet. The Diamond Flask, you're probably going to want to go for the up to 80% crit chance. If you haven't unlocked that through doing Syndicate, you can just buy one. Every single league, there's someone selling them. They're normally like 10 to 20 chaos. So just buy one of those when you have the 10 to 20 chaos. The Dying Suns, I think last time I checked, a little over 8 EX. This is really good just because it gives us 2 extra projectiles. So enough said there. Basically, I always run the Quicksilver Flask. You could choose to drop this. I wouldn't. You need the freeze immune somewhere. I always put this on my movement speed. The reason why I'm running the Eternal Mana Flask is because this basically makes it so I never really have to worry about running out of mana. And it also gives me curse immunity, which is really nice for like doing juiced up blight maps or running maps that have curses in them. It just makes it so that, since it's enduring, I'm never going to have to worry about mana, and I'm also never going to have to worry about curses. So that's really nice. I would definitely recommend this as a cheap flask option for you to just buy one of or to make one of. It's going to work really well. There are other options that you can swap some of these flasks for, and we'll talk about that right after I finish. The life flask and removes bleed. You always need removes bleed, otherwise you're just going to have some really avoidable deaths. The options that you can change out is obviously the two most popular ones would be the Cinder Swallow. The Cinder Swallow people like. This build does naturally ignite. The other choice is going to be the Bottled Faith. The Bottled Faith obviously is going to help a lot if you're killing like bosses and you just want like a big damage boost, because they take up to 10% increased damage, and then it also gives you 2% base crit chance, and then obviously the life regen. So that's a really strong flask if you need more boss DPS. Also, because of the league mechanic being in a small area, that huge consecrated ground is really going to give you some effect. So that would be a good choice of a flask to go for. I like that better than the Cinder Swallow. What I normally do is I keep all these flasks the same. I get a Bottled Faith and I will swap in and out the Bottled Faith for the Mana Flask. I'll then at that point only use the Mana Flask if it's a map where I can't regen mana or can't leech mana or something like that that's going to make it so that mana is going to be an issue in that map, and then I'd swap those two. So that's how I run it. I'm not really that big of a fan of Cinder Swallow, although it is pretty good. It is a good flask. Enemies ignited take 10% increased damage. That's a pretty big damage increase. So if you are just looking for more targeted DPS, or if you like that percent life recovery and mana recovery, that can swap out your life or your mana flask, but then you're probably going to want to pick up bleed removal somewhere else. So then you would basically want to change around the flasks. Or you need immunity to freeze, and you could swap it in here. So that's flasks. As far as boots, the boots, you're going to want to go ahead and if you're going to go for an influence, go for the elusive. Since we're already picking up the tailwind in our ascendancy, the only reason to pick that up on our boots would just be for the 50% increase, which is not very much because it's 50% increase of 8%. It would be a 4%. I just feel like there's better places that we can pick up stuff. I feel like trying to make a elusive and tailwind set of boots is just not going to be the best usage of our boot slot, just because it only gives us 4%. We're already at 20% because of the gathering winds and the gale force. I do want to point this out. I did wind up switching to Wind Ward from last league. This is how my tree is going to stay. The reason why is because last league we were using Far Shot, and just because of the difference in the league mechanic. The league mechanics are basically just all up close fighting, and it just makes it so that if you want to play the league mechanic, having Far Shot's going to actually reduce your damage. So I didn't go with Far Shot and instead went with the point blank, and then went for the extra defensive bonus that we get through the Wind Ward. Since we have really high attack speed, especially once we add the third cluster, we're going to have even more attack speed, which is going to make it so that we're going to charge up that Wind Ward really fast, which that's a 30% damage reduction at max charge after 10 attacks. So that's going to be really nice for us. This is the way that I find it works best if you're playing it as, boss or mapper, league mechanic, just doing everything with it. I would drop this and go for Far Shot if you were just only killing bosses. Like if you're like, I'm not playing the league mechanic at all, obviously 60% more damage and being able to be at range and get that max damage at a range of 70, that would be at an advantage. But if you're playing everything, I would play it set up like this. Okay, so we got that covered. You have a few options that you can go for the belt. Headhunter. If you're not going for a Headhunter, a Steigen Vice, you could go a DPS belt. You're going to need general damage. The suggestion is probably going to be a Redeemer for projectile damage, attack speed, elemental damage. Those are going to be your best choices for those things. Or you could just, if you find a nice belt that fits in your slot, you could go for that. But if you're looking for, what's going to be the best thing I can go for, that would probably be the best DPS options. Also, the damage on Chilled will actually work because, we do cold, fire, and lightning damage, and we pick up percent chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. So we are going to be doing those things. So you would benefit from that also. The quiver. This is kind of a big preference slot. My personal preference here, my ideal slots are attack speed, which I don't have. Attack speed, crit chance, crit multiplier, and on the crit chance, ideally, I'm going to want to have the frenzy charge chance on hitting a rare, which is unlocked through the syndicate. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for on this, is to make something like that so that I can drop this ring here. This ring really is just my frenzy charge generation. It's not that good outside of doing that. When I drop this is going to open me up to free up a bunch of other gear, because I can go for one of the easiest to get damage and resistance items, which is going to be the taming. I definitely recommend this since we're going to be running one curse, the elemental weakness, and our other choice for a curse is going to be projectile weakness, which we can't get as an auto cast from rings. It has to be a manual cast, which is going to be the other thing that if you're planning on doing a lot of bossing and you want more boss DPS, I would suggest adding manual cast projectile weakness and making your neck anointment, uh, curse of doom, which is going to give you a +1 to your curse. It's just 3 gold oils, so that is going to be my recommendation there. Since I even at this point in the league, I don't feel like I'm lacking any DPS, and I know how powerful and how much damage this build does, even not using the barrage support. I just don't see any point in I don't see a really a point for me this league to do that. I'd rather have Constitution for the 14% life and the 20 HP just to make me a little bit tankier. Helm, it's a lot easier this league to get the elemental hit 15% increased damage or 40% 15% increased attack speed or 40% increased damage, and we're actually able to get them on Lion's Pelts 85. So if you can pick one of those up, one of my buddies got one for half the EX. I mean, I think I paid 80 for mine, and that was very early in the league, so pretty reasonable because people are now able to actually like target farm them and put them on the right type of bases. So that's pretty cool. Um, so we've covered the rings. My suggestion is taming and a curse ring, or you could go for two rings. You could also, do one of these frenzy charge generations if you don't want to try to get the frenzy charge generation on your quiver. The +2 amulet, obviously, I've already talked about that. Basically, just get a +1 to dex gems and then a +1 to lightning, fire, or cold. I'll do a craft video on it when we make it. There's a lot more luck involved this league. But I will do another updated video for all the crafts. The only craft that I've done so far is kind of just luck spamming this to get 3 stats, and then crafting this, which I just did a video on how to craft this, so I wasn't going to do another one. As far as the chest, I feel the most important thing here is the base crit. We really have to get our crit chance up. So base crit is going to be a big deal for us. If you want to go for multiple things, obviously you can spend as much as you want on this. You can go for the elevated base crit and then slam it together with something else elevated, or you could just go for 2 influences, slamming them together, or you could do what I've done, which is basically just focus on getting that base crit first. And right now, this is kind of set up like this is my base now. So if I want to take an awaken it, it's already set up because it's got an isolated hunter mod. So you could choose a lot of different things. You could go for like an elder base with % life because you want more HP and you want that base crit. You could start off with if you wanted to pick up your curse on your extra curse on the chest, you could start off with that on the hunter base and get the base crit off of the elder base. There's a lot of different stuff you could do. You really are going to just have to decide what 2 mods are the most important for you, or buy something that's really nice, or spam a lot to get it. You can still spam this league with the pristine fossils like I did last league for my last league's chest. The only thing is after we do that, you're not going to have the nice harvest way to put on your base crit. So you're going to have to spam a lot more and hope that you wind up hitting the life with the crit chance, or you're not going to be able to get those together like that. So there's some choices there for you guys. And I think that's pretty much it. We've covered all the gear. Flasks, I will go ahead and put the POB as it's played in this video. And then the next guide is going to be basically when I get this near finished, or when I'm going to be stopping to playing it, and give you guys like the end game ideas. I will do craft videos on everything that I make. I'm probably going to make I haven't done DPS belts in a while. I'll probably do do crafting guides for pretty much all of the gear besides the slots that I've just recently made videos for, which is basically just the bow, because now we don't have harvest. So I will do videos on how to craft some sweet gear, that's gonna be better than this stuff, moving into more like end game type gear. Anyways, I hope that this video has been helpful. If I didn't cover anything, if I didn't answer one of your questions, please do leave a comment and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If you guys aren't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Thanks for watching. Peace.